Today we'll be talking about block weapons in Space Marine 2. Block weapons have come a long way since launch, from one of the worst options possible with zero interesting mechanism while having glaring flaws, to now not only viable but also preferred by many veterans of the game. Saber has provided very coarse information about how block weapons actually work in patch note 5.0. And in-game there's essentially zero explanation about how this differs from the others. In this video we will talk about not only the general mechanics of block weapons, but also hidden ones. Finally, we will discuss how the various properties of block weapons allow the players to perform certain actions otherwise impossible. Let's get started. To start things off, block weapons differ from balanced and fencing weapons in that they cannot parry in the traditional sense. This means that you cannot get gun strikes by parrying the attacks of an enemy or get shield back from parrying a minor's enemy. This also means that you cannot kill minor's enemies by parrying them. What isn't different, however, is that enemies who have been parried or perfectly blocked will all receive 50% more damage for the next however long time, as seen with the yellow flashes. Instead of parry, block weapons have the eponymous ability to perfectly block parryable attacks. This will prevent the user from taking any damage, and you will hear the confirmatory ping. Know that all applicable attacks that make contact with the player during the block window will also have their damage nullified. Upon a successful perfect block, you will also not be locked in a long animation like with parry weapons, and you will be able to quickly chain into other actions, including another perfect block. Upon a successful block, the player will gain a buff. This buff is called Adrenaline Rush, which will be synonymous to block stacks or AR in this video. Each instance of perfect block will result in only a single stack of Adrenaline Rush, and you can get a maximum of 2 stacks. You can tell how many stacks you currently have by 1, hearing this ping sound on your block. 2. Looking at the buff counter. 3. Looking at your character's right arm. Each stack of Adrenaline Rush will grant the player 45% melee damage buff, capping out at 90%. At least that's what it should be doing, because in patch 5.0 block weapons used to get 3 maximum stacks and each stack granted 30% instead. I have yet to confirm whether it is 60% or 90% at max stack now, but the change did not bring any significant breakpoint differences, so it is likely that 45% per stack is correct. A hidden buff that is not mentioned anywhere in or out of the game is that upon gaining a stack of Adrenaline Rush, you also receive 60% less range damage for 1.8 seconds. When the player reaches 2 stacks of AR, he can choose to activate this buff via a melee attack. When the attack makes contact, it will trigger an explosion that does not do any additional damage, but will interrupt enemies that can be staggered. Disclaimer: as of the making of this video, this explosion had been bugged since patch 6.0 to not have any area of effect, but the enemies hit by your weapon will still be interrupted. With the assault, Adrenaline Rush also affects your ground pound damage. Curiously, the grappling hook is not considered a melee attack. In addition, upon triggering the explosion, you will also get 1 armor segment back. Whether an attack successfully landed or not, the countdown for Adrenaline Rush will begin. This effect will last for 2.4 seconds, during which you will maintain the buffs that Adrenaline Rush stacks grant you. As long as your hand glows, you can trigger the explosion and the armor restoration effect within those 2.4 seconds. Without any action, AR stacks will last for 35 seconds but grant no additional benefits. The stacks also do not disappear when switching weapons. Another lesser known effect that AR brings when activated at max stacks is that your melee attacks will also do increased poise damage. This means that against certain enemies, you can interrupt their actions and keep them stun locked. This ranges from simple Major's enemies to Terminus enemies such as the Hellbrute and the Hive Tyrant. Sadly, the Carnifex and the Neurothrope do not have stagger animation and are exempt from this effect. For people who are veterans of fighting games or Souls games, frame data means everything. We will also be using fighting game terms every now and then in this video, because it is necessary to use these terms to establish why block weapons are so unique. I don't want to make a long-winded explanation about how frame data works exactly, but this is a simple graph of how the 3 different archetypes look in their parry or block frame data. Here we see that in terms of parry active window, the longest is fencing at 660 milliseconds or 40 frames at 60 FPS. balanced at 495 milliseconds, or 30 frames, and block at 330 milliseconds, or 20 frames. As you can also see, balanced weapons are the only class of weapons that have a startup time, while block weapons have the shortest active window. This means that on paper, block weapons are the least forgiving weapon type to negate damage with, while fencing weapons are obviously the easiest to do this with. In addition, since perfect blocks do not put an enemy into a massive frame disadvantage, in essence, they are now stuck in an animation while you're free to do other actions before they recover. It seems to cement their role of foregoing defense for offense. But similar to fencing weapons, blocks are instantly active the moment you press the parry button. As long as you know the timing of certain attacks, it is very much possible to negate most instances of incoming damage, even in a really bad situation. Rejoice, Sekiro and DMC Chads. So let's recap what make block weapons interesting. 1. Armor on activation. 2. Ability to stagger. 3. Incredibly high damage. Having the ability to regenerate armor on demand, paired with the capability to interrupt most enemies, and also being able to kill them quickly, you are now allowed to control the flow of battle more easily. Because you are able to stagger enemies out of their attacks, you can turn the table on attacking enemies by not only stopping their attacks, but also getting an armor back for a layer of safety. And because you can do so much damage at this time, you can quickly incapacitate the enemy or enemies in question and secure an execution for even more armor. In that sense, block weapons allow you to win trades and gain priority over your enemies. Trading in fighting games refer to when both parties initiate attacks at the same time, resulting in both taking some damage. Winning a trade means that you end up doing more damage, whether by the attack itself or because you're able to gain priority over your enemy. Priority simply means that the person with it can perform follow-up actions quicker than the other party after an event has occurred. In our case, we interrupted the enemy Majoris and are allowed to continue attacking them. This is a complete upend of the Space Marine 2 basic melee combat loop, as the only way to really gain priority over enemies normally is for them to be in a neutral state, i.e. they're not attacking, or after they have been parried. This is what it meant that you can control the flow of battle, because you no longer have to play by their rule. With certain weapons, you can even purposefully take damage in order to dish out massive damage. The Thunderhammer and Power Fist specifically are exceptional at this role. See my other videos for how Hyper Armor works in Space Marine 2. And for the Assault, you can even one-shot extremists with the right setup. In conclusion, block weapons are another victim of bad patch notes and poor explanation, much like many obscure mechanics in this game. Hopefully in the future, these problems can be properly addressed. Being able to dictate how battles go is a source of a lot of fun in Space Marine 2. The level of skill expression that block weapons allow for is entirely absent in the alternatives. This is not to say that the other options aren't as capable, well, maybe not balanced. Only that block weapons are often misunderstood and therefore misused. In any case, if you find this video helpful, feel free to share with other brothers who are not familiar with block weapons. Thanks for watching and see you next time!